Thank you for joining me for part 3 of this series. If you've had a soul connection who's run away from love because they're more comfortable around people they don't love, go with it. Let them run as long and as far as they can until they exhaust themselves. That is their choice and right. But they're kidding themselves if they think there won't be cosmic repercussions for the harm they've done to you, as well as their own self-rejection and betrayal. So while they run off and live their fake life, you stand solid and live your real one. Inevitably along your journey, you will meet and connect with someone great. It won't be a soul connection, but you could grow to love them for who they are and what you share nonetheless. Now, no one should ever feel pressured to move on and form a relationship with someone else. Romantic relationships are optional, and there's no reason anyone needs to be in one. For some, the most authentic thing to do will be to simply remain single because you don't have a strong enough connection with anyone else, or they've run away from it, or they've proven themselves an unviable partner. But this is for those who have either never had a soul connection, or for those who, after healing their end of the soul connection, go on to meet someone they could have a great relationship with. I'd like to turn to what a healthier conventional connection looks like through the example of the character of Taltal. Early in the show, I thought that his character was very striking and was being underutilized, but his role does increase to become one of the best characters. He spends most of his time with his uncle. We don't hear of any parents or siblings, and he appears single. Whatever happened in his backstory gives him a fairly cautious, skeptical type character without being bitter and twisted. He's no idealist and doesn't expect people to behave heroically or even ethically.
배신은 사람이 하는 것이 아니라 시절이 하는 것이다.
He's an interesting character because when we meet him, he doesn't have an open, hopeful heart like Wang Yu or partially open one like Seungyang. We witness their hearts break and close off to varying degrees over time. But that process had already happened for Taltal by the time we meet him, and he tends to be quite dismissive and mistrusting of Seungyang. I would say it takes years for him to properly get to know, trust and admire Seungyang, which is the very definition of a conventional connection. There may or may not be some physical attraction at first, and feelings build over time based on conversation, shared experiences, getting to know that person, and attachment. It was Seungyang who pursued a friendship with him, or more a mentorship, as she needed his help to get back to the palace. Taltal feigned disinterest, but you could see that he liked being around her. I think he was the only other character besides Wang Yu that she was attracted to, just by the way she acted with a similar stiffness around him at times. Over time they become allies, and their relationship is primarily built on information exchange. This connection never forms into a romantic relationship, partly because they're both duty-bound individuals who put the needs of the empire before their own personal feelings. In fact, Taltal actively invests in Seungyang's relationship with the emperor, knowing full well that the empire will run far better when Seungyang is the neck that turns the head. The other reason things wouldn't have got off the ground with them is because she was still in love with Wang Yu. Taltal knew this, of course, and advises her to focus solely on the emperor for the sake of the empire. So he expects them both to live a life of sacrifice and duty. Can you love someone you're not in a soul connection with? Yes, that accounts for around 99% of love on this planet. Can you have a great relationship with someone you're not in a soul connection with? Yes, and it's pretty much the only chance you have because almost no one is with a soul connection, at least not long term. Can you be highly compatible and have natural rapport and affinity with someone you're not in a soul connection with? Yes, absolutely. The key difference being, love in a conventional connection is internal, emotionally decided. In a soul connection, you have that as well, but there are also external, cosmic forces at work pulling your life paths together. In a soul connection, the love is non-negotiable. But in a conventional connection, it's entirely possible and can be observed in the millions across the planet. Here's a comparison. Taltal gets to know Seungyang so well he can predict her behaviour in the end. You'll see him here, just lying in wait.
저와 잠시 말씀을 좀 나누시지요. 다들 저를 비키거라. 지금 어디로 가시는 겁니까?
폐하를 뵐 것입니다.
가지 마십시오.
나를 막는 연유가 무엇입니까?
폐하와 황후마마 사이에 금이 가는 것을 원치 않기 때문입니다.
So when you getting knocked off his horse at a life-changing moment and having a sense that something serious has happened is energetic. Taltal predicting Seungyang's plans based on his knowledge of the situation and knowledge of her reactions over the years is psychological. Of course, some interactions with a soul connection are also psychological, but energetic communication in a conventional connection is not the primary form of interaction, if at all. This is where a lot of people get confused. They see two people who have chemistry, they're both really smart, they're both similar, they're well suited, they generally treat each other really well, they've got shared goals and probably perspective on life. So they think that means they're soulmates or some other soul connection. None of those things make someone a soul connection. With Seungyang and Taltal for starters, there's no metaphysical phenomena. Secondly, they didn't mean anything to each other personally for a long time after they met. You can have instant connections with people who are not soul connections, which is a different topic, but there wasn't an immediate connection in this case here anyway. They needed to get to know each other over time because they didn't innately understand each other because there was no soul recognition. Both would have moved on quite well without an avalanche of emotion forcing exorcist levels of inner healing. They would have thought of each other, missed each other, cried for each other, but the grief wouldn't have been cellular level, forcing deep change in their lives and a lifelong energy exchange of continued transmutation. A lot of people who love someone want it to be a soul connection for it to be important or meaningful, but that is absolutely unnecessary. Most stayers, or the Wang Yu of the connection, will remain long-term single. If that isn't what you want, then a conventional type of connection, like Seungyang had with Taltal, will be the way forward for many if you've truly healed and recovered from your soul connection. If your feelings haven't been resolved, then unethically choosing to be with someone you don't love does not fall into this category. That would become an unhealthy conventional connection, like we saw in the second video, even if it's not physically or overtly abusive, as it's based on some sort of need, transaction, illusions of being safer or easier, or simple survivalism. If it's a healthy conventional connection, there's no reason or motive to be with them except high connection, high chemistry, high compatibility, and you vastly admire them as a person. Some further questions to ask are, is it real? Is this a fully contributing partnership? Or is there dependency in a power dynamic? Can you both contribute more to this world together than separately? Or is someone being held back and would be better off alone? But my message here is, once you're emotionally balanced and free again, a healthy conventional connection with someone awesome like Taltal can support you both through life's journey. To summarize, let's look at a short interaction from each of the three connections so you can get a good feel of the difference in energies. Let's have the magic of Seungyang and Wang Yu, just getting what the other is saying, no explanation required.
원나라 상권 중에 가장 취약한 점이 뭔지를 아느냐?
자국의 물건들을 생산해낼 능력이 없다고 들었습니다.
잘 알고 있구나. 내가 왕으로 복위를 하게 된다면 가장 먼저 부원배들의 밀무역부터 차단할 것이다.
그리만 된다면 원나라 상권의 상당 부분을 전하께서 장악하실 수 있을 것입니다.
To taltal and their mutual support and admiration.
이것까지 몸소 웬일이십니까?
박례관을 3번이나 보냈습니다. 요지 부동이니 제가 직접 올 수밖에요. 폐하께 윤허를 받아냈습니다.
To the emperor, where manipulation and trying to get the partner to change because they are fundamentally unsuited are the hallmarks of this connection.
그 입이 이것이 재밌는 구경거리인가?
송구합니다. 사실대로 말씀드리면 폐하께서 오지 않으실 것 같아서 거짓을 고했습니다.
Sadly, that's the caliber of ruler the people had, and after that conversation, he just turns away and leaves. The Empress Ki portrays 3 main types of relationship templates we're currently experiencing on the planet, as well as a choice we all have to face. Do I follow the lead of my soul and live authentically, or do I fall into social conditioning? Although Seungyang became the empress of the Yuan dynasty and the most powerful woman in Asia for 30 years, something possibly no one else on the planet can say they've achieved, she would forever remain in a head-heart conflict. It doesn't matter how prestigious, socially sanctioned or admirable your choices are or not. Violating a divine order is violating a divine order. Suppressing your soul for other needs, including the perceived greater good, is still suppressing your soul. I'll let Seungyang herself tell you what her soul wanted.
언제가 될지도 모른다.
천년이든 만년이든 기다릴 것입니다.
Wang Yu had just asked her to return to Goryeo with him. Here's an exercise for your intuition. Imagine her reaction if anyone else had asked her that question. You're welcome to pause the video so you can feel the difference with a soul connection. Sadly, due to multiple choices made by herself and others, she never saw her homeland again. If you're in the minority of people who have experienced a soul connection, chances are that you or they wimped out. But that doesn't end the connection. The spiritual connection will continue to work its way through the both of you, no matter what you do. And how awesome for your life to have included one of the most powerful experiences available to us as human beings. I'll leave you with a final quote that sums up a soul connection, but with a couple of classic runner thought processes. She mistakes her love with gratitude for what someone has done for her. Firstly, there are many people who have done a lot for her, and she doesn't feel that way about them. Secondly, most soul connections do little to nothing for each other in physical reality, but the love is off the charts. So equating love with giving and confusing her love for gratitude needs to be healed and released, and the truth admitted. She speaks of repaying Wang Yu, which he wouldn't have wanted or needed, as he gave freely. What she's referring to by repaying is restoring the balance of karma. All she would need to do to restore that balance is admit the truth and live authentically. If she had done that, their life stories wouldn't have gone the way they did. And I say all she needed to do while recognizing that is the task of our lives. You'll also notice her discomfort in being loved by Wang Yu and her insistence on being on the giving rather than receiving end of the love. In my experience, most runners are happy to truly see you and truly hear you, often microanalyzing your every facial expression to understand as much as they can about you, but become deeply uncomfortable when you truly see and truly hear them. Often there are things they really don't want you to know about them, but it's mostly a deep-seated fear of being inadequate and that you could never truly love the real them. You'll read all this in the most quintessential quote given by a soulmate runner. But what Seung doesn't realize is, no matter how she tries to hide, he already loved her. And he didn't love her persona, he loved her soul.